Welcome back to the 17 News at Sunrise podcast, where we share your news on your schedule.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Sunrise.
Good morning. Terror in Boulder, Colorado, after an active shooter enters a grocery store, leaving 10 dead, including one of the first police officers on scene. The latest on the investigation. Kern County business owners are on the edge of their seats today, waiting to see if we will be moved back into the red tier. And it looks promising. We'll tell you what it would mean, especially for places like movie theaters that have been shuttered for months. Plus, a lawsuit against Governor Gavin Newsom's use of executive power amid the pandemic is moving forward. What his office has to say about defending his actions. Today is Tuesday, March 23rd, 2021. Good morning, Kern County, and thanks so much for starting your day with us on this Tuesday morning. It is 5 a.m. I'm Alex Fisher along with Maddie Jansen. And Maddie, I think it's safe to say, yeah, it's officially spring. Definitely feels like it, though.
Yeah, and you know, this morning driving in, the moon is beautiful outside. It's really big, and it's just on the edge of the horizon in orange. So if you, I don't know if it's still up because I did come in a little bit ago, but if you haven't, or if you have a chance, go outside and check it out. Yeah, it's really beautiful. All right, let's check in with Kevin and get some more on that spring forecast. Kev?
Yeah, you'll probably be seeing the moon in between clouds because we have some clouds out there as well. And we've been talking about maybe seeing a few light showers up in the mountains, but the way this is positioned now, I've kind of taken out the chance of showers into our mountain regions. We'll see if that holds true. Right now, Bakersfield has a temperature of 52 degrees, so it's somewhat of a mild start. We've got a north wind at 9 miles per hour. As we take a look at the day here, we will start out with some clouds, and then as we progress into the afternoon, evening, we should start to see a little bit more sunshine, but keeping the valley dry for sure. Temperatures will be in the 60s this afternoon. Up in the Tehachapi area, we've got a temperature of 39, a northwest wind at 18. The breeze still out there. The wind advisory still in place for you until 8 p.m. tonight. We have extended it. Was at 8 a.m. We've extended that to 8 p.m. this evening. That's for the mountain and desert region. And then you can see here, the models want to still try to put in maybe a light shower right around the 9 a.m. hour. And then throughout the day, we'll see some clearing skies as well. But again, I'm not expecting any real measurable rain. If anything, right around a trace to 1/100th of an inch. I'll have much more and keep an eye on this coming up in just a little bit.
All right, thanks so much, Kev. We begin with the carnage in Colorado and a mass shooting at a grocery store in Boulder. This morning, 10 people are confirmed dead, including a police officer who was among the first to respond to the scene. NBC's Dan Sheneman has more.
We have multiple calls coming from inside of people that have barricaded themselves inside.
Police swarmed a grocery store in Boulder, Colorado.
Super shooter is inside. He just shot at us twice.
Josh Springwood thought he heard gunshots as he pulled up to the store.
And then that's when we saw the body and knew that it was indeed gunshots, and we had to get out of there as quick as possible.
Some 4 hours after the initial 911 call, police said the threat was over.
We know of 10 fatalities at the scene, including one of our Boulder PD officers by the name of Eric Talley, who's been on the Boulder Police Department since 2010.
A man was spotted in handcuffs being led away from the scene. Police say one person is in custody.
We have one suspect in custody. I want to reassure the community that they are safe.
Near the scene, Stephen McHugh waited anxiously. His granddaughters were in the store, and they're okay.
You know, every city is susceptible, but there's a way in which I would think that, well, this wasn't going to happen in Boulder. And now we know better.
A procession drove the fallen officer away from the scene. Authorities say the investigation is in the early stages. Dan Sheneman, NBC News.
Making headlines around the state this morning, and a lawsuit against Governor Gavin Newsom's use of executive power is moving forward. 2 Republican assemblymen are preparing for arguments in the District Court of Appeals against Governor Newsom. They say they hope to defend a court's ruling late last year that the governor abused his emergency powers in response to the coronavirus pandemic. After the ruling in November, Newsom requested an appeal. The governor has defended his decision, saying he has made them in the interest of public health. Abuse of power is one of the reasons supporters cite in the effort to recall Governor Newsom. Elections officials say they've verified 1.2 million of the nearly 1.5 million signatures needed in order for the recall to qualify for the ballot.
There's a widespread sense of frustration, not only with the mishandling of this state's response to COVID-19, but with the extent to which the people of California and their elected representatives have been disenfranchised and have been dispossessed, and how we've been told for a year and running now that the people of California essentially have no say in these monumental decisions that control the most basic facets of their lives.
In a statement, Governor Newsom's spokesman said Newsom looks forward to defending the state's emergency response to COVID-19 in the Court of Appeals, which has already stayed the Souter case, Superior Court's erroneous ruling in this case. And your time now is 5:06, and a bill authored by Kern County Assemblyman Vince Fong aimed at targeting illegal street racing was passed by the Assembly Transportation Committee yesterday. According to Fong's office, AB 3 aims to curb illegal street racing by placing limitations on what's called exhibition of speed. That includes burning out tires, revving engines, performing stunts, and other activities that ultimately leads to racing. In a statement about the bill, Fong said in part, "I authored this bill in response to what our local law enforcement officials have conveyed as a troubling trend throughout our community. Street racing and exhibition of speed has spiked tremendously statewide, leading to tragic accidents and senseless deaths of our youth. This bill sends a strong message that this illegal activity will not be tolerated." The bill will be heard in the Assembly Appropriations Committee in the coming weeks.
17 Court Watch now. A man charged in a deadly hit-and-run crash that killed a teenage girl was sentenced yesterday. Herbert Mallory Jr. pleaded no contest to the 2018 crash that killed 15-year-old Erica Truman. Truman was crossing North Chester Avenue at Decatur Street when she was hit. Mallory, then 61, left the scene and was arrested the following day. According to the Superior Court website, he was sentenced to time served and 2 years probation. A man's behind bars accused of attacking another man in Bodfish. According to Kern Valley deputies, it happened Sunday morning around 3 on Lake Drive near Caliente Bodfish Road. Deputies say when they arrived, they found a man with significant injuries to his face. The victim was taken to the hospital and is expected to survive. 32-year-old Otto Yerke was arrested on suspicion of attempted murder, assault with a deadly weapon, and other charges. Kern County Sheriff's deputies arrested a man early yesterday morning for trying to steal a vehicle in Oildale. It happened just after 4 a.m. Deputies were called to a business in the area of Roberts Lane and North Chester Avenue for reports of a burglary. When they arrived, they found a man with burglary tools trying to steal a parked vehicle. He was arrested on suspicion of several charges, including theft.
The search is still on this morning for a woman who has been missing since March 12th. 28-year-old Laura Rodriguez was last seen when she was released from the sheriff's downtown jail on L Street just before 9 a.m. The BPD says Rodriguez does not have the medication she needs. Call police if you know anything about where she may be. In education news, Bank of Sierra is pitching in to fund a new scholarship program for new college students across California. The bank is donating $16,000 to the Asian Pacific Community Fund. The money will be split up into 8 2,000 scholarships for low and moderate income students in the Central Valley, Central Coast, and Southern California. Students applying for the scholarships must be high school seniors who plan to attend college full-time this fall. There is no ethnicity requirement, and it is open to all majors. Applications must be submitted by 11:59 p.m. on Friday, April 2nd. We've placed a link on our website to help you get there. Just head to kgt.com and click on the hot link icon. Goats may not be the first go-to pet on your list, but a Montana woman is working to change that. She's hoping her efforts can pair younger generations with their own baby goat. Of course, after all, who can resist a kid? Here's Emma Wolfhurst with more.
Michelle Grobby loves her 12 goats.
I guess goats are like potato chips. No one can have one because you have to have at least 2 goats, and then they just multiply.
7 years into goat breeding, she wants to share this love with kids. Grabe founded the Montana Goat Project with the goal of pairing sponsors with new goat owners.
They're not an expensive animal, it's just the startup. So I'm hoping some kids that would really love to do goats would financially be able to do goats if they had a sponsor or sponsors.
Grabe says the cost to sponsor a goat is $350, but once they're with their new owners, the animals only require $30 to $40 a month.
The goats like Blossom here are pregnant, expected to give birth around April. That means babies will be ready to go to their new homes in May, and they can expect anywhere from 8 to 14 babies.
Grabe says once the babies are born, they'll stay with their mom for 2 weeks before she starts bottle feeding them. When they're about a month old, they'll be ready to go home.
They sleep all night. They get 3 to 4 bottles a day, and they're pretty easy, honestly.
Grabe hopes to involve kids looking to do 4-H projects with goats, as well as homeschool children.
They're very easy to maintain, and they're so fun. And especially in Montana, I think they're the perfect animal.
Welcome back here at 520. President Biden heads to Ohio today to push the $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan and recognize the 11th anniversary of Obamacare. Tracy Ponce has a preview of the trip and new photos highlighting the growing controversy at the border.
Maddie, the White House is still dealing with the situation at the border while the president hits the road today talking about stimulus payments and other relief. President Biden resumes his Help is Here tour today in Columbus, Ohio, promoting the American Rescue Plan on the 11th anniversary of the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, with the country's health dominated by coronavirus. Today, there's a 4th COVID vaccine on the horizon. AstraZeneca announced its 2-shot regimen is 79% effective. But a government safety panel said that number may be skewed with outdated information.
You can rest assured that the FDA will put a great deal of scrutiny in every aspect of these data.
Critics are scrutinizing the recent pileup of migrants at the border, many of them children.
We've got to treat this issue in a way that is reflective of our values as Americans and do it in a way that is fair and is humane.
Texas Congressman Henry Cuellar provided these photos, our first look inside one crowded holding facility. He says the pictures were taken last weekend. We're not sure by whom. Faces were already obscured. Homeland Security and Border Patrol would not comment, nor did they dispute the photos.
I think the public needs to know, the conditions of those facilities.
We should not be just talking about who's right and who's wrong. We should talk about how do we find a solution to deal with this issue. The Border Patrol are overwhelmed.
Today, White House and State Department officials traveled to Mexico and Guatemala to discuss what's causing the sudden influx and how to slow it down. The White House continues to insist that the border is closed and they're turning away more people than they're letting in. I'm Tracy Potts, 17 News.
Welcome back to your 17 Health Watch. And doctors in Chicago completed one of the first known double lung transplants from one former coronavirus patient to another. Chris Hush has more.
The history-making procedure lasted about 10 hours, almost double that of a normal lung transplant. On the operating table, an Illinois man in his 60s with a severe COVID-19 infection who's been on ECMO life support for 4 months, a ventilator for almost a year.
When we talk about taking the lungs from a previous COVID patient and putting that into a new patient, what went into making sure that those lungs are still healthy?
We want to make sure two questions have been answered. The first is there's no more virus in the lung that we are accepting for transplant, and secondly, there's no permanent damage.
Northwestern Medicine's surgical director of the lung transplant program says the lungs came from a donor who had a mild case of COVID-19 but died from an unrelated matter. Visual exams, biopsies, and function tests were performed on the donor's lungs.
We just want the lungs to look perfect. I mean, if there's any concern, like if there's any suspicion of scarring, either on the imaging studies or on the biopsies we take, I mean, that would be a no.
What does this mean going forward? Does this open any doors?
This opens door for more organ donation, and we can avoid rejecting these lungs just because a patient had COVID in the past.
Which is more important than ever because in many cases, COVID-19 attacks the lungs. Although it was one of the first procedures of its kind, the patient's success could determine the future of more COVID-to-COVID transplants as demand for lung transplants continues to climb.
He's done really well. He's speaking to us. He's, interactive, and his new lungs are working fine. So we just need to get him a little bit stronger, and hopefully he'll be able to talk to you.
Chris Hush reporting. Your time now is 5:26. The new study is shedding light on why children tend to have milder symptoms of COVID-19. Researchers from Weill Cornell Medical College analyzed COVID antibody tests from over 31,000 kids, teens, and young adults. And they found that the younger the person was, the greater their antibody level. In fact, children under 10 had significantly higher levels than adolescents. Experts say the findings showed children mount a more robust immune response when infected with COVID, reducing their risk of severe symptoms. If your pants have become a bit tighter since the pandemic began, you're not alone. A new study shows many Americans packed on the pounds after shelter-in-place orders went into effect. Researchers from UC San Francisco tracked about 270 adults across the country from February to June of 2020 and found participants gained an average of 1.5 pounds every month. And that was regardless of where they lived or any underlying health conditions.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Sunrise.
The 17 News at Sunrise podcast is a production of KGET and Nexstar Media Group. For more on all of the headlines in today's show, head to kget.com.